Somebody say yeah. Say it again, say yeah. Somebody say yeah for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You look good out there, baby. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look here. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die. Look here. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, I wish I could come out there where you are, baby. A long time coming, but I know, look at here, a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here. Let me say one more thing. I go to the movie and I go downtown. But all I can hear is somebody keep telling me, oh boy, don't hang around. It's been a long. If anybody know what I'm talking about, let me see you wave your hand. I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. But I've got to take my time and say this, look. Then I go to my brother. Yes, sir. And I tell him, I said, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me. He knocks me back down on my. The big time that I thought. Somebody say yeah. I could last long. I know I'm able. I'm able to carry on. It's been a long, good God Almighty, a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here. One more time, look. But then I go to my brother. Somebody take your hand back and forth like this. Everybody. You sitting in the first balcony too. Help me, please. All over the auditorium tonight. All over the... Hallelujah. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. That's the times what I thought I could last so long. No, I know, baby.
Diversity, the state of having people who are different races or who have different cultures in a group or organization. Our number one goal at the Smoking Glass Hour is to create diversity. We believe diverse conversations with diverse groups of people makes America better. Listen to our broadcast on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Diversity is the only way to go in 2015. And don't forget, tell a neighbor, tell a friend about the diversity on the Smoking Glass Hour. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. Tonight on local and state politics, we're joined by Ms. Katrina Jackson, which is a representative for District 16, and Mr. Marcus Hunter, District 17. Marcus and Katrina, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing wonderful.
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Katrina, I'll start with you first. Is there anything else that you'd like the audience to know about you and who you are as a representative for District 16?
Sure. As you stated, I represent District 16, which encompasses parts of Ouachita and Morehouse Parish. I've been a representative. This is my first term. I serve as chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus. Prior to that, I staffed in the legislature for 7 years. I'm an attorney by trade, and just really enjoy representing the people of District 16 in this state. I think overall we've had some somewhat tough times under the current administration, but we've been able to come together, Marcus, myself, Representative Hunter, myself, and others, and get some really good things done for the people of this state.
Okay, thanks for that, Katrina. Marcus, how about you?
So, as a young practicing attorney, I represent Monroe and the city limits of Monroe. I have Richwood, and I also have what's considered Buffalo. I have a pretty diverse district. I have a lot of restaurants, hotels, and other businesses in my area. I have the honor of serving on commerce, civil law, and now one of the more powerful committees, which is now Ways and Means, in my final year.
Okay, thanks for that. I have had my roommate down here, Senator Neil Reiser, which is a representative senator out of District 32, and I indicated to him tonight that you guys were going to be on. I was going to bring Neil on, but he had a very important week that was going on, and I didn't want to interrupt that, so I told him I'll get with him next week. So what I want to do is make sure that all the listeners out there remember and understand that I'm not trying to play these gotcha moments when I bring individual candidates on. I am only trying to allow the voter and the listener to develop a deeper understanding of your political candidacy, your background and qualifications, and motivation for public service, so people can know more about you and why you do the things that you do. So I'm going to start with you, Katrina. Tell us who inspired you the most to run for office.
Well, I tell everyone I build my faith in no one, not even myself, but God. So really through prayer, I was inspired to run for office. Of course, during my time as a legislative staffer, term limits had happened. I had worked for quite a number of years under a great representative and attorney, Marcus's father, Willie Hunter Jr., who had seen give selflessly to the people of District 17. And so just inspired by my life experiences and through prayer, because after term limits, what we saw was a new House and Senate come in, and it took so much institutional knowledge away from the process, and that's something that inspired me as well, just getting in and making a difference.
Okay, Marcus, how about you? Now, we know based on what Katrina just indicated that your father, longtime state representative Willie Hunter, I know that he had to play a role in it, but I'll let you answer that better for yourself.
I think you're absolutely right, exactly right. I've been watching my father do this since my freshman year in high school to basically about 3 years after I got out of 5 years, actually, when I got out of law school. I watched him try to effectuate change in the community, not only from a legal standpoint, but from a political standpoint. And it was very inspiring, and it stoked the flame in me for a continued change in the community.
Uh-huh.
And what happened from that point was I looked left, I looked right, and most importantly, I looked inside and searched myself. And after much careful thought and prayer, it was a decision to move forward and offer myself up for public office.
Mm-hmm.
Completely a choice of the people. I'm proud of it. I have absolutely no regrets, and I look forward to continued service.
Well, I'll tell you, Marcus and Katrina, I have 23 years under my belt being an elected individual. I ran for state representative back in 2004 in a very heavily populated district, which was one-sided. It's about 70-30. Be that as it may, I know exactly what you guys have to go through on a daily basis. So I applaud you for whatever it is that you're doing. Now, I have a lot of younger listeners that are out there, my daughter being one of them, who wants to be an attorney, and she also wants to run for public office. So let me ask you this. What are 3 of the most important attributes or skills that you guys feel that you have that you bring to the table as a state representative for the district that you represent?
Well, since you talked with Katrina first, I think I can interject on this one. I would say, first of all, you have to have patience. So the first thing for me when I got into politics and the practice of law, I wanted to change it. I thought I could come in and effectuate change almost immediately. And if it just made sense, or it was the Christian thing to do, or it was the commonsensical thing to do, people would just line up and applaud it. And that's just not how things have worked out. I'll say that, not only in the practice of law, but in the legislature. But you have to be patient and coalition build those relationships. Outside of patience, you have to have a lot of effort and hard work. So there's going to be no shortage of time for you to try to compete and make things better. So you got to be devoted and committed to what you're trying to do. And I think the third thing is that you have to have some serious passion and direction. If you don't have direction in what you're trying to do, then it's easy to get swept up, not only in the practice of law, but in politics with people bestowing names on you like honorable or the loved or the attorney or esquire. And you have to remember that those things are just adjectives. They're on your tombstone. So when you die, you'll die with your name. So you're leaving with what you came. So you need to just stay level-headed, stay humble, keep your head down, work hard, and hopefully the change that you want to see, not only from a legislative standpoint, but from a political standpoint, but most importantly, your community, you'll see done.
Okay, Katrina, how about you?
I agree with Marcus. I think that some of the 3 most important attributes definitely are encompassed in what Marcus said. And there are other things that you look at. For me, it was my strong foundation in my Christian belief, because it allows me not to judge people by my own thoughts. It allows me to be open-minded. And so I would say your Christian beliefs, your ability, number 2, to be open-minded is very important. As Marcus said, Representative Hunter said, you go in and if you're not patient, you know that there needs to be some change, and you're really willing and ready for that change to occur. But you have to remember to be open-minded. I have come into sessions with a bill, and I've learned this, to never be married to the first ideal you put out there. If you're open-minded and you listen to people, you come away sometimes with a better piece of legislation that you're able to pass and effectuate change back at home. So that's number 2, always remaining open-minded. And number 3, always being a man or woman of your word. I tell people throughout the House and Senate chamber all the time that the only thing you have in politics is your word, and it should mean something. And when people know that they can shake hands with you and your word means something, you get more done. And people begin to work with you more and believe in what you say. And it's even past the halls of the Capitol. It's even back home in your district. If you tell people you're going to do something, then you should be doing that, or you should be trying to do that. It may not always be successful, but the people know you tried. And so I try to be open with them. I try to be honest with them at all times, and not hide information. Representative Hunter and I constantly post on Facebook. We're constantly holding community meetings. take calls throughout our districts all the time, emails. I'm real big about making sure, because I made that commitment to the constituents, that I would be accessible to keeping my word, and I answer all my emails. I return all calls, do everything I can to make sure I am open and with the constituency.
Well, I'll tell you, Representative Jackson, I can vouch for that. I believe the day that I reached out to you, you were actually in court. So I want to say I appreciate you doing it, because I know personally how that can feel when you're doing something and you're distracted, but you want to kind of make sure that you do one and the other. Let me ask you this, both of you guys. Katrina, I've heard you and I've seen on your Facebook post, you have a strong religious background, a Christian background. Marcus, I know from the struggle that your dad had to go through back when he was coming up, going to law school, attending Southern University, back doing segregation, so forth and so on. When we fast forward to now, in 2015, more recent in 2008, when the president became elected, I know for a fact that sometimes we have to do just a little bit more so people can have that sense of trust. Not that it should be that way. Sometimes it is that way. So I'm saying all that to say this. In what ways do you, Katrina, raise the bar for yourself and others rather than allowing others to raise the bar for you as a human being and as a representative for your district?
First of all, some people are to a point they won't recognize or they choose not to recognize that there are vestiges from the past that cut along racial lines sometimes, and they still exist in politics. Mm-hmm. How I've tried and been successful at times in getting past that and raising the bar is I'm always willing to work with everyone. I'm willing to work across party lines, across racial lines, and across geographical lines, because what people don't realize, sometimes just simple geography of a state puts you against each other, having differences of issues or of what you want done for your district may be totally different than what someone in New Orleans or Lafayette wants from their district. So you have to be able to work across geographical lines as well. So basically being able to come to the table and work across any line or barrier that's there sets the bar pretty high at that point, because you're not closed-minded. Mm-hmm. Also, being knowledgeable. You know, once you get to the table and you're sitting there and you are helping to change the face of Louisiana, are you knowledgeable about what you're talking about? So by remaining knowledgeable, remaining committed, and studying every aspect of what you're going to talk about helps out a lot, because it's one thing to get to the table, but when you're sitting at the table with 105 individuals that are elected by 40,000 plus people from each district, you have to have something to say that's accurate, that's important, and that's about the people of Louisiana, and that, I believe that's how you raise the bar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Marcus, how about you?
Well, my dad has a saying that he's put on my heart and my mind ever since we were little. He's always told me that I have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And it always stuck with me just in every aspect of my life, whether it was sports, whether it was school, whether it was politically. You know that there are going to be people, institutions, and businesses that are going to expect more out of you, regardless of your background. And that may be just based on your gender. It may be based on your race. It may be based on any other type of classification. So in the back of my mind, I've always believed that hard work, getting up earlier, reading more, learning more, knowing more, and priding myself on that, or at least trying to do that, would levelize the playing field. My father would also tell me, and my mother as well, she would always say, Marcus, you got to work smart. You can work hard as you want to, but if you're not working smart, then you're going to wear yourself out. So in the practice of law and in politics and just in life, I've learned to try to work as smart as possible rather than working hard at things every day, but also to remember that I have to work twice as hard as some other people or other situations, because I make a joke when I'm in the Capitol all the time. North Louisiana is treated as West Mississippi or Southern Arkansas in terms of funding, in terms of things that we want in capital outlay and other projects, because most people, and this is not a slight to people from New Orleans or maybe Baton Rouge, because I have tons of friends that's where I was schooled. Some of those people have never been to North Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about adults. We're talking about grown persons who are charged with funding and appropriating parts of the state. And they've never been to North Louisiana. They may have driven through, they may have flown over, but I may be the only contact they have with their North Louisiana experience. So I have to be not only knowledgeable, but I have to be willing to work hard to make sure that things for this area are taken care of.
Right, right. And Katrina and Marcus, what I try to do is from the outset, I try to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand exactly who it is that I'm speaking to. So what I'm trying to do now is allow you guys to develop for the audience so they can know your character and know why you do the things that you do. Now, Katrina, I'm going to bring this one directly to you. I have a mother. I have all sisters. I have all nieces. I have all great nieces, and I have 2 daughters. I grew up around all women that were strong. Okay, and we know that there's been a reasonable period of time when women have actually had the right to vote, had the right to get involved in politics. So when I talk specifically to Katrina Jackson, representative, what is it that you'd like to tell any young lady that's out there, or any older lady for that fact, that might be thinking about running for office? Because I know, and I'll assume this, that you've had to go through some obstacles just because of who you are. So how do you deal with that personally? And I know that your faith plays a role in that, but tell the audience how you deal with that if, in fact, you've had to encounter that while you've been a representative. Not only that, as an attorney. The reason why I asked that, because I had a female attorney in the courtroom a couple of weeks ago that was telling me some of her experiences just trying to be a qualified attorney, but she was surrounded by all male, and she had to go through these things. So tell us how you have to deal with that.
I've always believed, number one, is how you see yourself. And I never subscribe to what others think of me. I always remember that if I'm knowledgeable, despite the fact, or what people may think about females or African Americans. But as far as being a woman and being in a male-dominated field, because right now we've lost a number of women in leadership in this state, you don't subscribe to other people's theory of you. It's going to be about, it's always about how confident you are in yourself and your ability to do the job. I've said this before, in this interview, that be knowledgeable so that even though they underestimate you, at some point they have to pay attention to you. Gandhi has this quote, and I remember some politicians have quoted it before in their victories. First they laugh at you. Then when they realize you're knowledgeable, they fight you. Mm-hmm. In the end, if you really stand for the people, you'll win. And so I say that to say sometimes when women first announce, I encourage them to announce. You may be taken as a joke, okay? You may not have as much money to run because sometimes it's difficult for females to raise money in the political arena. But if you're out there and you have something positive, accurate, and encouraging to say, and people realize that you are serious about what you're doing, they'll begin to take you serious. Mm-hmm. So don't let it serve as a barrier for you. I never get sidetracked based on what people think of me stereotypically, of how they think stereotypically a female should act. Mm-hmm. Katrina Jackson, and I tell them before I'm black, before I'm a Democrat, before I'm a female, I'm a Christian, number one, so I don't accept any political label that would set out to stereotype me or set out to show me as being weak or show me as not being capable of competing at any level. It's all going to go back to how you see yourself, and then faith without works is dead. And so once you are positive about who you are and what you set out to do, you have to work at it, and you have to make sure that you're spending the hours. A lot of females fall into this category where they say, well, I'm the only female in this field, so that should count for nothing. I don't subscribe to that theory. Mm-hmm. I believe that just like Representative Hunter works or anyone else in that chamber, just like they study, I should study. Mm-hmm. And so basically I see myself as an equal of my colleagues. Mm-hmm. And that alone in itself, that gets you over that hurdle. Now, while other people are thinking or saying, oh, she's just a female, then they underestimate you. And while they're underestimating you, you're working. And that's the way you progress and win.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you said that because, again, like I said, there are some young individuals that are out there listening. And I'm hoping that they can take from what you guys are saying and apply this to their particular lifestyle. Not necessarily do it exactly, but they can take something from what you're saying and apply it. Now, Marcus, let me ask you this. I know in your period of time as being a state representative, can you tell us what is the most important thing that you've learned thus far being a state representative for District 17?
I would say one of the most important things I've learned is don't be afraid to be knowledgeable or smart on a particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
To take a stand, I guess the best way to put it. Don't be afraid to take a stand. There are going to be some things that are not going to be popular to other areas of the state. There are going to be some things that are not going to be popular to some of the other constituents in your district. But you have to be willing to take a stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give an example. There was, in my first year, efforts to revamp voting rights. First year elected, tried to change voting rights. First year elected, I tried to change some issues with how judges were set up in Monroe City. My first year elected, I tried to do things relative to equal pay for women and gender equality. And these things were considered abrasive or corrosive, especially to a 5'9", 270-pound black male that's bald-headed with a beard.
Uh-huh.
Never been seen before. It's something that is not readily embraced. And you know, they try to typecast you when you take a stand. And I heard a pastor say this before. He said, make sure that nobody ever tries to realign the noun in your life. If your noun is that you're a Christian or that you're a man, then they can call you whatever they want to in terms of an adjective. And that shouldn't bother you. But don't ever let anything happen that will affect you as a man. So what I've learned is while I'm at the Capitol, you know, I'm a Christian first. I'm a man first. Now, I'm a lawyer as well. I'm a politician as well, but some of those things are fleeting. You know, I'm not guaranteed to be that for the rest of my life. I'm guaranteed to be a Christian, and I'm guaranteed to be a man as long as I'm taking in air. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm at the Capitol and when I'm everywhere else because, as Representative Jackson said, people are going to watch to see if there's something that they can do to throw you off your game. If you like power, they're going to give you power. If you like money, they're going to try to give you money. If you want prestige, they're going to try to give you prestige.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the issue that you have to be very, very careful with. So what I've learned is just to apply myself the best way that I can and to stay out of the fray of the adjectives and cliches as it pertains to being a politician and most importantly, an attorney.
Right. And I'll tell you, Marcus and Katrina, my pastor always told me years ago, 23 years ago to be exact, that even though you may not see those pair of eyes looking at you, there's going to be always somebody looking for you to fail. And that has always stayed with me, along with my mother. Now, when we get to some of the leadership styles, let me ask, I'm going to start with you, Katrina. Do you think a good leader should be liked, feared, respected, or all of the above?
I don't subscribe to the theory of being feared.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you should be respected. I think that when you're liked, that's good, but it's not a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
But if no one likes you, no one likes you, you need to check your leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should be respected, number one. But I think also that there should be some who you're leading that actually like you. But you can't be so burdened down to make sure you have 100% of the people that you're leading like you, because no one's going to ever agree with you 100%. And some people respond when they don't agree to you with dislike, and so that's just a natural part of leading.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you should be respected and you should be liked, but you shouldn't seek the respect and affection of 100% of everyone, because you'll never receive it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Marcus. Okay, go ahead, Katrina.
And I think that's where you stay well balanced.
Okay, Marcus, how about you?
Well, I think leadership is a lot like parenting. When I was growing up, and even today, my dad and Representative Jackson can tell you this, having worked with us in our law office before. My dad will come in. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. So, you know, he's rigid. You know, he wakes up 5:30 in the morning, drinks his coffee, reads his paper, goes about his plan for today, and there are very few, if any, deviations for his plan for today. And if you get into the way of his planning, then he will deal with you accordingly. But my mother, equally aggressive and direct, is also a little more compassionate. So, having seen both of those in my household, what I would tell people at the Capitol is that in private, Katrina and I, Representative Jackson and I, are good cop, bad cop.
Uh-huh.
You know, Katrina can come. She has the access to certain areas. She can speak to people. She's in a leadership role. She makes sure that the demands are met. She makes sure that the entire Black caucus and Democratic caucus and the will of Louisiana is pushed forward. And she has a much better touch at saying things with people. I come in behind her. I'm more of a hammer. I'm strictly, this is what it's going to be. This is how I feel it should be. Let's work toward this. And sometimes what I say works. Sometimes what she says works. But I think people have to see that different dynamic. And not to say that I'm always one way, she's always one way, because they may be surprised when they see her more passionate about an issue and me more reserved. And then what they'll do is they'll come to me for some insight or some guidance, and I'll do just like a mother or a father would, where you know how your father feels about it or you know how your mother feels about it. You may want to consider this. And that's how you effectuate change. Every day you won't have the person whom you need to have here, but someone else may.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to work together. And in terms of just leadership, I don't think there's any one cookie cake cutout way to go about leadership. You could push to be feared, you could push to be respected, you could push to be loved, or you can just be yourself. And I feel like if you make the effort to be yourself, then you never have to worry about not being original and not being remembered for your effort.
Okay. Katrina, we know that, today the Supreme Court just ruled on the Affordable Care Act. And I believe Louisiana has somehow opted out with regards to some of the supplements or whatever the case may be regarding that. Based on the ruling today, what is it that the state of Louisiana can do? Because to my understanding, there are a lot of uninsured individuals in this particular state. In your professional opinion, what is it that you guys can push forward for with regards to helping those who don't have insurance with regards to the ruling today? Is that going to be a benefit for Louisiana, or is it going to be something else other than that?
Well, of course, it's a benefit, because if the Affordable Health Care Act was overruled today, then the insurance networks would not be available. We, as Louisianians, as a legislature and our governor, and Marcus and I, Representative Hunter and I, have continued, along with other leaders, to push for the full implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act here. But Louisiana has opted out of Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion is that portion that would have raised the poverty level or the level of income that would be eligible for Medicaid benefits. However, the Affordable Health Care Act being once again upheld, then the insurance market is still there. And that's some federal market, because Louisiana opted out, so they couldn't set up their own plans that allows for those who are of certain income to receive health insurance premiums at a lower rate, and how that is funded is they receive, tax credits and other things from the federal government to help fund their insurance, and so that's still beneficial. What we can do right now with that ruling being reaffirmed once again today is that we can make our constituency knowledgeable that although Louisiana opted out of Medicaid expansion, there's still the healthcare exchange where they can buy affordable insurance. I think that's what we need to be doing right now. When the legislative session starts, you're going to see again, like you've always seen from us and others, bills to place Louisiana in the full scope of the Affordable Health Care Act and provide for Medicaid expansion. But until that time comes in Louisiana, we need to be fighting We need to be going out, making individuals not knowledgeable that they can still sign up for the Federal Exchange and have insurance.
Okay, Marcus, for those who are listening, can you name some areas where government could probably do better? And I'll use for an example because I'm familiar with the educational side and the law side. Let's look at education. People are always talking when they run. The first thing they always say is that education is always the top. It's always the top priority. But when you flip it over, it's always the first area where they make budget cuts and things like that. How can the state of Louisiana improve the educational system that we have from a monetary standpoint and based on some of the things that you're doing in the legislature now as a representative for District 17?
Well, when you think about education, I think the biggest misnomer about education is that all education is equal. For me, I have in my district Richwood High School, which is majority minority, Wiseman High School, which is majority minority. And when I say majority, I mean about 99%.
Right.
Black. Then I have West Monroe High School, which is majority white. Probably, 75, 80% maybe. These schools are not created equal. Let's be honest. They don't have the same facilities. They don't have the same school buses. They don't have the same textbooks. They don't have the same amount of tenured teachers or professors or paraprofessionals, and they don't have other assistants. If we're going to be serious about education, it's not just funding, but it's about levelizing the playing field. If you have a school ranked as an A school on a high school level, and a school that's ranked as a C or a D school, a failing school by our standards in the state, we should not be funding those schools on the same level. We should be putting more effort by way of funding, by way of money, by way of paraprofessionals, by way of innovative programs, so as to get those schools who are otherwise failing on the same level. It makes no sense to fund an A school the way you would fund a C school. They don't both need the same effort. And on a higher, secondary education level, we have to be willing to look at TOPS. One of the biggest things I've done in the last 2 years was try to change the law to TOPS. TOPS is essentially a Pell Grant. If your child makes a certain grade, a 2.5 or a 20 on the ACT, or maybe a little lower if they do TOPS Tech, your child can go to school in the state of Louisiana essentially for free. But unlike the GI Bill, what military uses, and unlike other aspects, once your kid graduates, they have no requirement to stay in state. I think we have to look at changing that. And that has been something that has drawn the ire of not only my constituents, but other legislators across the state. I believe we are not getting the return on the investment on TOPS because the kids who are getting that money are what I like to call pulling a LeBron James and taking their sons to South Beach once they get paid. Once they graduate from school, they take their jobs and their money and they go to Texas or Georgia or neighboring states or Seattle or Chicago. And we're having a brain drain to the point where the positions that are to be hired on state levels, on local levels, we're having to outsource that and get people from outside of the state. And we're paying them an exorbitant amount of money because right now Louisiana is not as attractive as it should be. And we're doing the same thing with businesses. So the measure for me in terms of education, levelize the playing field by more funding for elementary K through 12. In terms of secondary, if we want to see a true return on our investment, then invest in the workforce and the training by way of making TOPS targeted towards certain degrees that are needed, as well as making people, if you get a year, for every year that you get a loan or a grant from the state, you agree to give a year of service back to this state. And we can watch our state growing by leaps and bounds.
Okay, Katrina, we know that the Louisiana legislative session, it just ended a couple of weeks ago. If you had to give it a grade, how would you rate the performance of the legislative session, overall the performance and the outcome of it?
I would probably give them a C+, the overall performance, and because you're just slightly above average because we did what it took as a legislature to make sure higher education and health care was funded. So we took what I thought were just votes that were just in a natural course of cutting some of those tax exemptions. But for some people, those were very hard votes. And so for that reason, I believe we did a great job. However, I saw this state give in to Grover Norquist and others based on Governor Jindal's political presidential ambitions and passed the SAVE Act and other bills that were basically smokescreened to create what he considered to be his promise of revenue neutrality and restructuring our tax system and restructuring some of our corporate welfare. And so because we were not brave enough to also do, when we cut the tax exemption budget, at the end to get those bills passed, we had to put a 3-year limit on them, which means we left this state still in a structural deficit. So of higher education and health care, yes. Did we do enough? No. And then we do what we were supposed to do when we're told that there's a structural deficit and that's permanent, fix it to the best of our ability. No, we didn't do that. So I give us a C plus this session.
Okay, Marcus.
For the overall body of the legislature.
Okay, very well said, Katrina. Marcus, how would you rate the performance of the most recent legislative session?
I would give us a D minus or F plus. I'm a little hard there.
Okay, tell us why.
Well, just in terms of people, we didn't put before politics as a whole.
Uh-huh.
I think when we look at what we did, yes, we did pass a budget. Yes, we did try to, a couple of things done. Let's look at the tax burdens. We didn't shift the tax burdens away from the middle class or people who work hard in this state and who have had business away from corporations. We're still giving away millions of dollars annually to corporations with no clawback provisions. We didn't modify TOPS, as I said before. We had a retiree bill that we worked hard on, and it got to the governor's desk, and he vetoed it for retirees to get a cost of living adjustment. When we talked about taxes, there was no conversation about readjusting the alcohol tax or the gambling taxes so that they would have to pay more and we could take that money and realign it to education and health care. We did nothing. We did some things with sentencing reform with marijuana, but not like we should have. We did not modify prison reform in our attempts to require that all prisoners had to be filled or worked with state entities before they could be privatized. There was no modification to voting rights whatsoever. I sued the Secretary of State last year over early voting because during the election, if you remember, 2 or 3 days were taken out because the governor decides he wants to declare a holiday right in the middle of early voting. Well, the Secretary of State decided that the legislature should fix it. I brought a law to fix it. He came into the committee and voted against it, or he said he wasn't in support of it, and Republicans followed suit and didn't go for it. Of course, things like equal pay. So, yes, we did accomplish some things, but I'm not inclined to want to pat my Republican colleagues on the back as if they really effectuated some change. I think they shied away from the challenge of distancing themselves from the Jindal administration and doing what's best for their constituents, and the impassioned pleas of them to not send us to a special session or a veto session let me know that they were just trying to hold their nose and do something so that they could get reelected as opposed to actually take care of the people. Now, I say that because I know that sometimes votes are going to be hard. We're not going to always do what we like. We're not going to always get what we like. And with us being the minority, and I mean that by being Democrats, we sometimes only have certain opportunities to effectuate the overall change and landscape of the legislative session. And for the most part, that's why I gave it a D minus F plus.
Okay. I'm going to start with you first, Representative Jackson, then I'll come back to you, Representative Hunter. The marijuana bill, the medical marijuana, did you support the bill or oppose it, and why or why not?
I supported the bill, and I supported it for one just real reason. Number one, that it was smokeless medical marijuana.
Mm-hmm, right.
So basically, when someone is prescribed this medicine and they're administering this medicine, self-administering at home, it's not a medicine that in any way will affect anyone they're living with or anyone that's around them because it's smokeless. Number two, I was privy to a number of things, and basically information, CNN specials, where I saw medical marijuana really treating kids and individuals who had chronic diseases. One instance is a 5-year-old whose parents were very concerned because she was having 20 or 30 seizures a day with the medicinal marijuana that dropped down to 3 to 5 seizures a day. And so I saw a medical need for it. Simply put, there was a medical need for it. The bill was well crafted, tightly drafted, where it will not affect anyone else, and it's very much controlled. There'll be only one grower, with the LSU and Southern Ag Center having right of first refusal to be that grower, and then it'll be distributed to only 10 dispensers. And so I think it's a good bill. I believe that it will serve a great purpose, and we'll see some of our people, if maybe not healed, become, basically able to function in a normal day-to-day life from having this medicine.
Okay, Marcus, how about you?
I support the bill as well, and I had no reservations, of course, which were many, and I also had, more so than usual, a lot of younger constituents a little excited about it, but once I explained to them the narrowly defined ranges or limits of this legislation, they kind of shied away. I think they just, a lot of younger people who were progressive-minded thought that we were legalizing marijuana or reducing the marijuana sentencing in this bill, and I had to tell them that it did not include any of that. It was just simply an effort to assist in research and also pain management. And having spoken and listened to people on an intimate level who had dealt with cancer, paraplegia, quadriplegia, PTSD, anxiety, things of that nature, I felt that it was something that could possibly help or assist these people who were probably either going to have a lifetime of pain or who were moving toward hospice care. Once they put all the barriers in to make sure that it would be a research effort through the agriculture and mechanical colleges, like Representative Jackson said, as well as having the opportunities for HBCUs to conduct research and alongside Pennington and other areas. And it had to all ultimately get the clearance of the pharmacy board as well as the state board of medical examiners. I feel like it's something that we can move forward and do. It's a step in the right direction, and that's why I didn't have a problem supporting the bill.
Okay, Marcus, let me ask you this. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of individuals are going to jail for marijuana charges. Is there what is the statute regarding when it comes to marijuana, or what is it that can be done to make sure that marijuana users can get more therapeutic treatment from drug treatments and things like that, rather than being put in jail? Because when you look at a lot of individuals, especially now, if we've actually approved this bill with regards to medical marijuana, and you transfer it over to those who are actually using it illegal, but they're using it sometimes for recreational purposes. Is there something that can be done, in you guys' opinion, regarding that?
Well, first of all, this bill deals strictly with therapeutic.
Correct.
It's not anything. Well, rehabilitative use is what I say. It's not recreational in that regard. If we were to tie that bill to decriminalization and the amounts of marijuana the person could have on their body or in their possession at one time, then that would open up an entire can of worms, and that was going to be a very delicate issue. I am also for decriminalization. I think that, well, when I say decriminalization, I mean the sliding scale that we use in order to get somebody a felony.
Correct.
As a former public defender, I would have a person who would get caught with maybe a joint or what would be a $10 purchase of marijuana. The second time they get a simple possession purchase, it results in a felony.
Correct.
If you get a felony conviction, you cannot vote. You cannot get student loans. You cannot have public housing. There are a couple of other things that you can otherwise have impaired. That is where I have an issue with the entire, encompassing marijuana argument. If we're going to relax some of the criminal laws, then we need to relax it from a felony standpoint and not just give the impression that we're encouraging recreational marijuana use.
Uh-huh.
So if there was a decriminalization to where there was an effort to allow for a recreational amount of marijuana, for me to support it, given using what I know as being a former public defender and a practicing attorney, it would have to have more dealing with sentencing reform and also the ability to not be a felon, and it affects your voting rights, your ability to get loans and have housing. And if they were to tie all that in, then I could probably look at maybe some recreational use.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Katrina, I know that Senator Jones, Charles Jones, back when he was in office, I believe he dealt with the Cypress Point issue with the road coming through there. And I believe you actually had to deal with it this legislative session. Is there anything that you'd like to tell those who are out there listening why you supported, were against that? I believe it's the Kansas City connection, whatever the case may be, and you can expound on it in whatever way that you choose. But is there anything that you'd like for the audience to know about that?
Sure, it's the Kansas Lane connector, and first of all, I would like the audience to know that it's not just a Cypress Point issue.
Mm-hmm.
This Kansas Lane connector is going to begin at the furthest most northern part of Monroe, leaving out of the city, and it will allow persons from that area, from any town north of Monroe, including Louisiana towns, Arkansas, where we border, to pass through Monroe without actually coming into Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to have a disparate impact on the businesses along 165 South and North. That's number one. So it's not just a Cypress Point issue. It's an issue with the viability of Monroe once that Kansas Lane connector comes in. As it relates to Cypress Point, there were some less intrusive routes that could have been taken that would not have taken out some people's homes that work hard for their homes, but would have taken out some of the public property that could have been resituated other places. But, of course, ULM and others fought against that, so now we have it going through some homes in Cypress Point and leaving a number of homes that people worked really hard for in the path of a roadway that's going to lower their property value. So that's the number two thing that people really need to understand about this, that there was a less intrusive way of doing it that wouldn't have taken out homes. Lastly, I look at the other needs for Monroe. When I look at the hierarchy of needs for Monroe, we have a sewer problem that would cost $14 million to repair. Here in the city of Monroe, anytime it rains, and I don't mean heavy rain, I mean light rain, streets back up. You have to know what streets not to drive through because the sewer system backs up. And if there's a slight bit of heavy rain, there's sewer and feces on people's streets and on people's lawns. And I thought that that was more important at this point to fund than a road of convenience.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Marcus and Katrina, when it comes to local politics, okay, how important is that to you? And what advice would you like to give to anybody that's out there who may be running for sheriff, clerk of court, police juror, city council, whatever? What advice would you personally like to give them while you have the mic to tell them the pros and cons of what it is that you do? I'll start with you, Katrina.
I would tell them that it's always about the people. My barometer that's going to let me know when, if it ever gets to a point where it's not time for me to run, one way I will know is this. If service becomes about you, then you don't need to be serving. So I would tell them it's time consuming, but it's refreshing and it's rewarding. And if you're running at the local level, get out, meet people. You'll have what you think needs to be done based on your personal life experiences, but get out and meet people. See what's important to them, so that becomes a part of your goals and your missions and your platform. And after you are elected, don't get so busy doing the job that you don't sit down with the people. I have 6 advisory councils that are on different subject matters with very diverse makeups as far as race, as far as backgrounds, as far as professional life. And basically, it keeps me abreast of what's going on in the community. Have community meetings. When you're successful at winning, don't forget the people. And you begin to see things narrowly based on who comes in your office. So if you're still not accessible, if you're still not having those meetings and going out into the community, then you'll miss it. You'll miss the actual purpose of serving. So I would tell them that it's very rewarding. It's a lot of hard work. Take it seriously. Don't take it so seriously that it consumes your life. Remember your family, and if you're serving for the people, then you're going to be successful, but you're also going to be, you actually will find rewards that you never before imagined.
Okay, Representative Hunter, how about you?
I would start by saying, remember that all politics is local. You get elected locally. Those are the people that know you. Those are the people that watch you grow up. Those are the people that's going to be praying the hardest for you. Those are the people who you're going to be doing business with. Those are the people that you are ultimately seeking to protect or advance. Remember that first, all politics is local. Next, I would call it what I like to say SOS. Always have service over self. If it ever flip-flops and you bring yourself in over service, get out of the practice of politics. It's not for you. Go find something else to do. Go run a business. Go do something else. Never put yourself over your service. It's not, because it's not about you. It's not your seat. It's not. It's the people's seat. It's always at their behest and request, and it's not about you. As it pertains to politics, never take it personal. You will gray. You will grow old. You will grow weary. You will lament. You will rent your clothes if you take it personal. Because a lot of things that happen in politics won't make sense to you. If you take it personal, you will run yourself crazy and you will not be in politics long. And I would say, finally, don't wait for thank yous. Being in politics is not for pats on the back and awards and prestige. It is a job. It is work. It is a commitment. If you look at it any other way and you're expecting anything else, then you're going to be disappointed. Whether you're doing a good job or a bad job, do not wait on people to tell you thank you. It's the equivalent of a man with a chivalrous position or disposition holding a door for a lady or somebody who's elderly. If they don't say thank you, you don't get upset. You don't close the door. You can't. You have to be whatever you are regardless. So don't wait for the thank yous. Keep plowing. Keep working hard. And if you do those things, then whether you're on a local level, statewide, or national, you'll never ever walk away from this feeling like you gave less than your best. Nothing's worse than seeing an elected official who's been given years of service and has that look on their face like they wish they could do more. One of the biggest problems that people are going to have with our governor right now is that he didn't take care of home. And not to be overly critical of him, but when people come back to Louisiana or people come here to talk to legislators and people of Louisiana, for the most part, people are not going to be pleased with him running for president because he didn't take care of his home as governor. The last thing you want is that for somebody to feel like you're down in Baton Rouge enjoying food and hanging out and not doing anything and not being seen, as Representative Jackson said. There are lots of people who want to see you every day, but they can't see you every day because of the job you've taken. So just keep plowing, work hard, make sure you're visible, make sure you're accessible, and always, always put service over self.
Okay, Representative Jackson, I'll start with you first. How accessible is your office to the public, and how accessible are you to the public?
I'm very accessible to the public. We have an open door policy in my office. If I'm not there, the staff is, they serve with the same purpose I serve for the people, and to make sure we make Louisiana a better state as a whole. So if you come in my office and it's in between the hours of 9 and 5, with the exception of lunch, you're going to get someone every day. If you call office, you're going to get someone every day. If you email, you're going to get someone every day of the week, and sometimes on the weekend. I'm very accessible. What can I say? Look, I still am a full-time attorney. I'm around town all day when we're not in session. Do my own shopping, do everything for myself. And I'm still as accessible as I was when I was a college student. As far as my district is concerned, they see me like they normally will always see me. Nothing has changed. I spend more time now out and about than I would normally spend time out and about, but very accessible. I answer every multimedia message that comes through on Facebook and Twitter. So I'm more accessible than I've ever been. Nothing has changed. I still consider myself a part of the community. This title or this office doesn't do anything but make you more accessible if you allow it to, and that's what it's done for me.
Okay. Representative Hunter.
Well, I like to say it's about making sure that people see enough of you, but that you're not saturated. It's a very delicate thing for me. If people see me out all the time, then they may get the assumption that I'm not out doing the business. I'm not in court. I'm not at the Capitol. I'm not in my committee meetings. I'm not meeting with people to get things done. So it's a fine line between not being seen enough and being seen too much. You know, it's the equivalent of somebody going out to a dinner and staying there until the last song plays. You don't want to be out all the time, but you want to be accessible. You want to be seen. So the delicate balance for me is when I go out, everywhere I go, every constituent I speak to, I give them my cell number. I don't want you to feel like you have to go through my office all the time. Sometimes you may text me in the middle of the night. You see something on the news, you want an update on it, text me, call me. You can come by my office, yes. You can speak to my legislative assistant if I'm not there. If I am there, you don't need to set an appointment most times. But I think it's all about accessibility. I think what we have to do is, once again, this goes back to what I'm saying about working, twice as hard, but also working smart. You're going to have people who don't want to schedule an appointment. You're going to have people that want to stop you at church. You're going to have people that want to stop you at the grocery store. You're going to have people that want to stop you at the red light or while you're out eating. While we've been on this phone, on this interview, my phone has gone off several times about things going on in South Carolina and in Mississippi, and right here in my district in West Monroe, the home of the rebels. And people want answers. And I can't stop my accessibility because I'm multitasking. I have to be able to keep going. So it's all about accessibility, but I think the best way to do it is to give them every possible means. People reach out to me through Facebook. People reach out through Twitter, through Instagram. People call my cell. People stop by my father's and mother's house. People stop by my house all the time. And you never want to make anyone feel like they can't get to you. So I try to do a good job of making sure I'm accessible. And I tell people all the time, if you see me, you see my brothers, my sisters, my father, my mother, anybody, just send a message to them if you feel like you can't reach me.
Okay. Marcus, you indicated some of the things that are going on around the country, and that was going to be my next question. I'm not going to get off into the specifics because that's not why we're here, and we're not going to solve it tonight. But let me ask you this. I'll start with you, Representative Hunter. Name one way that you feel we can rise above the negative race relations we have in this country.
Communication. I think we have to be able to have a conversation. We have to be willing to have a frank, open, and honest conversation about what we perceive things to be, what things actually are, and how do we move past that. I cannot tell you how many people called me and inboxed me to ask me my thoughts on it. And I told them, I had a professor who used to always tell me, perception is the basis of reality. And whatever someone perceives something to be, generally to them, that's what it is, and you're not going to be able to change that. As it relates to race relations, as it relates to being liberal, progressive, conservative on things, you have to be willing to have a conversation. Even though Katrina and I are practicing together at some point, even though we're legislators and we're good friends, we're not going to agree on things 100% of the time. People who've been married for years don't agree on things 100% of the time. So I can't expect a Republican or a Democrat from another part of the state to look at things the way I look at things, and definitely someone from another state. So with that being the case, I think you have to soften people's stands, make sure people's hearts aren't hardened by way of communication. If things are relatable, if you can express to somebody how a particular thing makes you feel or what it draws up in your mind, then people will be more receptive. But you cannot start a conversation with your head. You have to reach people's heart. Mm-hmm. Reach their heart, and their heart is not hardened, then hopefully at that point, you'll get everything that you need accomplished and you can move forward.
Very well said, Representative Hunter. Representative Jackson?
I totally agree with Representative Hunter that communication is key to making this, to addressing these issues. And also, however, when we communicate, that we communicate with love. Because it's one thing to communicate with a person and try to communicate with them on an academic level, or attempt to communicate with them with reasoning, but sometimes there, and at all times, I believe it has to be approached with love. The most difficult situations in the world have to be approached with love in your heart for your fellow man. And that comes, and that breeds forgiveness, because sometimes before you can get to a point of healing, you have to forgive them. These issues that we're facing as a nation are deeply rooted in vestiges of the past, and there has to be a forgiveness. You have to approach it with love, and in your communications with them, both parties have to walk away feeling as though that they understand each other, and there is a positive road ahead for forging alliances instead of differences in division.
Okay, Representative Jackson, what have you done personally as a state representative to erase or ease racial tensions in your local district as well as down in Baton Rouge? If you can give us a specific instance, that'll be fine, or you can just elaborate on how you try to dissolve situations when you have the opportunity to do it as a leader.
Well, just from the beginning, like I've told you, my advisory councils are extremely diverse. I try to reach out to all communities, try to make sure they're at the table, because I feel that when you bring people to the table, you actually begin to break the barriers that are built up by race and other differences. And so what I've always tried to do from the beginning, even before situations start, is to bring diverse groups of people together to resolve issues. But I find is that when we're resolving issues and working toward common goals, we tend to forget our differences. And so that's what I do all throughout District 16 every day.
Okay, Representative Hunter.
We can have symposiums. We can have meetings at churches. We can meet at senior citizen homes and nursing homes. But I think it's about making sure we find that common ground. That may be more affluent or less affluent. And the way to do that is I give them an example of the body. We're all one body, and we are better together than we are apart. Let's get that out the way. As long as we understand that we're better together than apart, that's the first round. Once we get past that premise, what are we going to do to make sure that atrophy doesn't set in on one part of our body? What are we going to do about dilapidated houses? What are we going to do about blighted property? What are we going to do about covered streets? What are we going to do about well-lit streets? Property values are better in certain areas. So you get away from the stigmas and the stereotypes and move to brass tacks efforts to put people in the room together who otherwise would never get an opportunity. Who feel like they're being neglected and they're being taken advantage of, and that their voice is not being heard on any matter. And then you're going to have a part of town who feels like they pay property taxes and a large amount of property taxes, and they deserve a better quality of life, and that all things should come through their part of town first, and then whatever we have left can go to another part of town, if that be the case. But that can't always be the case. So we have to get people together, work with your local council, work with your local administrations, and try to figure out a way where everybody can walk away feeling like, one, they had some skin in the game, and two, they're made better for it. So it's a very delicate thing to do, but I knew that going in. I signed up for it, and it's been an honor and a privilege, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, I'll tell you, Representative Hunter, Representative Jackson, you guys have done a wonderful job. I don't like to hold individuals too long because I know that we're looking at about 9:07 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here's what I'm going to do. Katrina and Marcus, I'm going to let you close out with anything that we may not have touched on that you'd like to touch on, and then I'll give you guys as much time as you need to give your closing statement. I'll start with you first, Representative Jackson.
Thank you. I would say one thing that we didn't touch on a lot is the budget. I really will encourage citizens to pay close attention to the $26+ billion budget that's passed in this state every year. Become knowledgeable of it. I've learned that many people in communities are not as knowledgeable as they should about what the state and the legislature is doing with money, and whether your community is receiving its fair share of tax dollars that you pay in. And so I've seen so many communities underdeveloped because, as many say, we perish for lack of knowledge. So become knowledgeable of how this state is spending money, how they are allocating resources to education, to health care, to other areas, and to community development and your local government, and how we're allocating those dollars that we store to the side for economic development, and whether that is coming to your area. I would encourage everyone. It may seem complex, but as you delve into it, it's a simple thing. And the one thing we've done in District 16, I brought the staff down and invited people from diverse backgrounds, about 20 people, to learn what we learn about the budget each year, so that we could be more knowledgeable and we can understand what was going on. But, you know, I tell everyone, if you want to see what's happening in the state of Louisiana in politics, follow the dollars. Learn how to follow the dollars. Learn how to be a part of those conversations so that you can build up your community. In closing, what I tell everyone is this. We all live a life of service if we choose. Some of us do it at the state level. Some of us do it by running for office. Some of us do it as leaders in our community or in our churches. Whatever role you assume, be about the people's business. Always stay true to who you are. Never become so overly inundated in what you're doing that you don't take time for self and your family. I really appreciate people allowing me to serve. I'm not attached to the job. I'm attached to the service. And so try to keep your focus on what matters most, and that's the people and your friends and your family and the community around you.
Okay, Representative Hunter.
If I had to say something that we hadn't touched on here, it would be the elections matter. Every election matters. I don't care if it's a neighborhood tax. I don't care if it's a millage, a school board seat, a judge's seat, sheriff's seat, DA. Every election matters. I think the more knowledgeable we become about the day-to-day process and recognizing that all politics is local, we become better, more astute of an electorate. And as such, the citizenry benefits and the state benefits as a whole. It's virtually impossible as a legislator to be able to affect every aspect of government. But if you can educate your constituency to watch who runs for assessor, and you find out during that process how your property is valued, if you inform them about the sheriff's race, and you find out about policing and procedures in your parish, if you get them interested in the clerk of court race, and all of a sudden they're concerned about filing fees and other issues in the state. If they're concerned about the governor, then they have statewide issues. If it's the DA, it's who gets prosecuted. If it's the judge, it's how you're sentenced and what discretion you have. If it's the legislator, who can mostly represent your needs in a diverse area across the entire district in Baton Rouge, and who can understand laws and who can understand the process so as to continue to fight on a statewide level. And a lot of times people just believe that as long as I'm voting a particular way in a presidential race, I'm going to be okay. And that could be no farther from the truth.
Well, once again, Marcus, Representative Hunter, Katrina, Representative Jackson, you guys did a wonderful job. I have some questions that were submitted, but I'm not going to get off into all that because I know that you guys are busy. And like I said, we're looking a little bit beyond 9 o'clock on the far side of it. So what I'm going to do is say thanks to you guys for coming on. And if there's anything that we can help do to facilitate something that you guys may have going on in the future from this point on, feel free to reach out to us, because I'll definitely be reaching out to you guys again to try to make sure that the message is heard and make sure that everything is going on. And Katrina, my administrative assistant, just sent me that we'll make sure that we'll get you a copy of the MP3 for the show that you can share. Marcus, we can do the same for you, and this can be in your archives as well. So again, I hope that you guys from the listener standpoint, served them well tonight. In my opinion, both you guys got an A. You came on, you did exactly what you needed to do. And so at this point, Katrina, I'll ask one more time, is there anything else that you may have thought of now that you want to say before I close the segment? You and Marcus.
just tell everyone of course, both of us are accessible by Facebook. I'm accessible at my office. Number's 318-362-5123. If there's anything we can help you with, anything we can expound on, please give me a call.
Okay, Representative Hunter.
I would just say that in terms of my people, I love them. I love you all. There's nothing you can do about that. And if you have any other questions, you can call me 318-303-6213. That's the number where I can be reached. And if you submit a question that it's burning a hole in your ears or in your pockets or in your hearts or in your spirit, and you want to ask Representative Jackson or myself, reach out to us through Facebook or Twitter. We're very accessible. We do not hide from tough questions. We do not hide from issues and concerns of our constituents. So reach out to us and give us an opportunity to break bread with you, even if it's on an intellectual level, and move this area forward.
Well, I'll tell you, Marcus, since you went there, I'm going to give you one. Katrina, your photo has been blowing up with likes. And one of the questions was, are you guys married? No, I told you I didn't want to go down there, but it's out there now. So the listener that's out there, they'll get an answer if you guys decide to answer.
I am always just very open. I am not married.
Okay, Representative Jackson has spoken. Representative Hunter?
I am not married. I'm at this particular point in my life married to my faith, my profession, and my politics. So that's where I am right now with it. I think those are things that I have a commitment to at this particular point in my life. And if God sees fit, that will change.
Well, Representative Jackson and Representative Hunter, once again, thanks for coming on the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio. This will conclude the segment of the show, and thanks, and may you guys have a wonderful night, and our prayers will be with you guys as you continue to try to represent your district and the state of Louisiana for the better future on down the road. So thanks.
Have a wonderful night.
Okay, good night. Okay, you have been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio. We're going to pause for a brief moment. Our ministry at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass is not counting people in the pews or dollars in the plate. It's helping to make a difference, one person at a time. Join us on Spreaker.com or thesmokingglasshour.com. We are on the move in 2015. And by the way, don't forget to follow and like us on Spreaker.com.
Hey, Mo.
Yes, Lou?
I think younger kids need to know the value of sacrifice.
Yes, I agree. There is one place they can learn about sacrifice. If they tune in on WMAD and the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Monday nights, they can learn. It's informative with current topics. And by the way, the show is hot.
The show is smoking hot.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio. We just concluded the segment with Representative Katrina Jackson representing District 16 and Representative Marcus Hunter representing District 17 out of Monroe, Louisiana. They're state representatives. They did a wonderful job in the interview. I hope that there was something that you guys were able to take from this interview and apply it to yourself. They gave you information. They gave you some information with regards to how the political process work. They told you how they look at politics themselves, what makes them who they are, what makes them do the things they do. They also gave you some advice on if you decide to run for office, local office, or whatever the case may be, you have to be rooted. You have to have some type of spirit. And if you're doing it for the wrong reason, then you're basically going to set yourself up for failure. Now, once again, we always try to dedicate Thursday nights to local and state politics. And tonight we brought on once again, State Representative Katrina Jackson, District 16, and State Representative Marcus Hunter, District 17. We want to make sure that everybody tell a neighbor, tell a friend. You can go out and share this archive. Hopefully next week we'll be able to bring on Senator Neil Rouser, District 32, which is housed right here in Columbia, Louisiana. We're also reaching out to the other candidates. Again, candidate for sheriff, we have Mr. Clay Bennett. We have Mr. Mitch Bratton, Mr. Courtney Dunn, Mr. Hank Balls, and Mr. David Crane. Running for clerk of court, we have Miss Dina Domain, Mr. Greg Richardson, Miss Cherie Cox, Miss Lauren Young, and Mr. David May. Now, I'm seeing a lot of signs popping up in the neighborhood, but don't just let the signs pop up in the neighborhood. Let those bodies pop up in the neighborhood and talk to the people. Talk to those who are going to be voting. They ask me questions every day. I can only give them information that I know based on my knowledge of individuals from a personal standpoint. I do not tell them who to vote for, and I do not tell them how to vote. I do tell them that they need to get out and vote. They need to look a candidate directly in their eyes, and they need to make a conscious decision, because that decision is going to affect their life for the next 4 years. Once again, on the other night's broadcast, I indicated that there were some people that were out there. One of the candidates told me that some signs or whatever had been pulled up. Okay, we want to make sure that those things don't happen. We're also going to want to make sure that we can get out as much information as possible. We're also talking about the local police juror renewal, recreation board renewal. We're also talking about the gubernatorial race. We're talking about the lieutenant governor. We're talking about all these races each and every Thursday night right here at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. We're looking at about 9:18 p.m. Central Standard Time. Before we go out, I'm going to play you a little sounds of Gladys Knight and the Pip, Midnight Train in Georgia, and I'll come back and we'll conclude the broadcast. Stay tuned.
For the man, too much for the man, he couldn't make it. So he's leaving the life he's come to know. Ooh. He said he's going. He said he's going back to find. Going back to find. Ooh, what's left of his world. The world he left behind. Not so long ago. He's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. On the midnight train. Yeah. Said he's going back to a simpler place and time. Oh, yes, he is. Now be with him. Train to Georgia. Living on a midnight train. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. World is his and hers alone. He kept dreaming, ooh, that someday he'd be a star, a superstar, but he didn't get far. But he sure found out the hard way. The dreams don't always come true. Oh no. So he pawned all his hopes and even sold his old car. Bought a one-way ticket back to the life he once knew. Oh yes he did. He said he would. He's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. Yeah. Said he's going back to find, ooh, a simpler place and time. Oh, yeah. And I'm gonna be with him on that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. Oh, he's leaving
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. I want to send a shout out to Jam Vibe Radio out in Charleston, South Carolina. www.jamvibesradio.biz. We actually spoke today over the telephone. We may be in the works of doing some type of joint venture down the road, but be that as it may, I want to promote them and make sure that everybody that's out there listening kind of tune over and listen to them. They have some good jazz music that they play and some other things. Mr. Lionel Smith Jr., we talked today and had a very good conversation. And there's also another individual out there in the Baltimore, Maryland area that's out there who may be interested also in doing some things together. So when you look at internet streaming radio, what I need to tell you is that in the next several years, maybe sooner, that traditional radio would no longer exist. So tell a neighbor, tell a friend. We're on the move in 2015, and our message is clear that our goal is to make a difference. Once again, I want to thank Representative Katrina Jackson from District 16 and Representative Marcus Hunter from District 17. I want to say thanks to all of you who decided to listen in, and let's make sure that before we go to bed tomorrow, those who were actually killed in the Charleston, South Carolina area, I believe the funerals will start tomorrow through Saturday and Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. They may have even had some today. And we are also in the process of bringing one of the guys, one of the ministers, rather, that works directly in this particular situation. Hopefully we'll be bringing him on at some point in time so they can tell us some factual information, not some information that's heard from a third party. Again, you've been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. Thanks and good night.